Hi Mortgage Heroes, Andy Cruz here in Business Development, and this is your weekly video newsletter. This week we're going to talk about a couple of things that we just know have turned out to be true about this year. And the reason I'm going to talk about these things is so we can kind of future pace what we think is going to continue to happen. So some of these things might sound familiar because you've heard me say them over the last few weeks or few months. And if you have not been watching our weekly newsletter, then this is going to kind of encapsulate some of those ideas and maybe give you some things to think about as we're making choices getting to the second half of the year and looking towards the end of 2020. So first things first, obviously there have been a lot of changes in just the landscape of lending as it relates to government involvement buying mortgage-backed securities, which means the Fed pumping money into the system, as it relates to the COVID shutdowns and the stay-at-home orders. We know that those things have changed what employment looks like for employers, for employees. Some people could go back to work, some people can't go back to work, some people are choosing to stay at home to do work, and then when you stay at home to do work, some people have kids at home, some people don't. So a lot of what that means is that the idea of the home is changing. And you know, early on it was kind of easy to say, oh yeah, this could mean a change. And now it's really turning into people are really rethinking what it looks like to have a home in 2020. Some of the most recent mortgage and real estate data is a clear indicator that people are leaving dense, tightly packed cities, and that means condos, apartments, and sometimes townhomes even, and they're trying to move towards the outskirts of these dense areas and get into the suburbs, get into those single family residence type neighborhoods. And as that's happened, you not only have a shortage of inventory, but because of that, you have super high demand happening and prices are kind of at top dollar every time there's a listing in town. You know, even recently, some folks that were looking to buy, they ran into a little bit of what I'd call a buzzsaw, where they went to go look for homes, but the home they were going to go see already had 20 offers on it, and they stopped taking offers only 4 days into it being on the market. Now, that's just one home, and there's lots of other scenarios that are like that. So one of the things that we take away from that, and we know that has turned out to be true this year, is that people are reevaluating what home looks like and what home should be if it's not only where you live, but it's also where you work. And if it's also where you live and work and also where your kids go to school, that makes a great impact on the housing decisions that people are making. Now, when you couple that with the low interest rate environment that's been provided by the government investment of money into the market and banks initially tightening and then loosening standards again for lending, there's not only money in the marketplace, but the money is really, really cheap. It would not surprise me at all if we get a year, 2 years, 3 years past this point in time and we look in our rearview mirror and go, whoa, that was the lowest we've ever seen. Now, I have to remind you that rates are eventually going to have a low because there's a limit to how low they can go for the banks to want to offer it. I mean, they're making a return on the money, but the return can't be zero. There's no point in them lending it to you. So if you've still been on the sidelines on whether or not you should refinance, I wouldn't risk it too much longer. It's not because I think rates are going to go back up, but they've already come down so much that if you're trying to get even more out of it, you're trying to get maybe that last half drop out of the lemon that's already mostly been squeezed. So be very cautious proceeding trying to search for another low because I think we're in it and we're going to be in it for a couple more months. I don't know if we're going to be in it all the way into and through 2021, but what I already know to be true is that right now we are in it, and for the foreseeable future, we're going to stay in it. So a couple things we know to be true, just in a quick summary from this video, is number one, rates continue to be low and will be low probably for the rest of the year. Number two, buyer demand to get out of dense areas and go into the suburbs or the outskirts of the main city they live in, it is super high. Number three, because of that and low supply, you actually have prices in real estate holding steady, and usually a property that gets sold goes for the top dollar or the strongest borrower. And then lastly is Part of the reason we have an inventory problem is because people are choosing to stay in the home they have rather than make that next move. And that's kind of a double whammy, because if someone's looking to move up and there's no inventory, it's hard to do that. And if someone was looking to move but now has to work from home, well, they don't know how long that might last, so we might as well stay put while we sort out what work will look like before we take our next move. And I'll add this last one just for good measure. A lot of times in the summer, people look to move into the neighborhood where they want their growing kids to go to school. But because schools have, for the most part, stayed online and aren't even sure if they're going to go back to in-person classrooms, it means that those moves aren't also happening as they normally would during a spring and summer season. So as you can see, there's just a lot of moving parts happening right now, and this is kind of the best summation of all the moving parts that we could condense into this one message for this week. If you have specific questions that pertain to your scenario or what you're trying to do next, please reach out so we can listen and hear what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then help you create a plan to navigate how to get to that point in time with what we have in front of us today. Thank you so much for your continued support during this crazy time, and we hope to hear from you soon, and we hope to help you achieve whatever your next real estate goal is. Thanks for watching this week's video newsletter, and we'll see you again next week.